Good evening. My name is David Plylar, and I'm in the concert office in the music division of the Library of Congress. And it is another great pleasure to see you here for another great concert in just a few days. We just saw each other on Friday, it feels like. I'm here with several important people with Les Violons du Roy, including the executive director, Laurent Patenaude, and Isaac Chalk. Did I pronounce that correctly? Oh, okay. Who's the who's the lead violist? So please join me in welcoming them.
Thank you. Thank you. Hi.
You know, it's going to be an interesting program this evening, and I thought before we dive into that, there's such kind of an interesting background to the way that you got your name as an ensemble, yeah, as well as your just history in Canada. I'm wondering if you could just speak to that a bit.
But we are based in Quebec City, so a French city, and Bernard Labadie, the founder of Les Violons du Roy, the chamber orchestra, had to find a name in a couple of hours. He didn't think about that. And finally, he went for Les Violons du Roy, just to make something special about the culture in Quebec City.
That's where, and you started in 1984?
Yes. And also it's a kind of salute to the Baroque era too. Right.
And original founding conductor and director, Bernard Labadie, who's doing what you've been performing with him recently, is that? Yes, he's still the director of our choir. So we do mostly our program with choir with him. Excellent. I think, another thing that's interesting about your group, first of all, I mean, it's well known and well admired around the world, but you also have an interesting kind of perspective with your use of modern instruments with period bows, or maybe you could speak to what are the aspects of that make your performance style or sound unique?
Yeah, it's actually kind of a thing that, I mean, I'm a relative newcomer to the ensemble, but it's something that I think was born out of a kind of pragmatism in the 80s in Quebec City, which is still not a very big place, but it was much smaller even then. The sort of movement towards period instruments hadn't really kind of made it all the way there, let's say. I mean, it had, but it wasn't such a mainstream thing like it is now. And so Bernard, I think he wanted to have maybe the best musicians he could who weren't necessarily those who had this experience with these old instruments, but he thought that the bows would be this kind of interesting compromise, and it's turned into kind of this sort of signature sound for the group. I think it has its merits. I mean, some people would say that it's not far enough, and others, whatever. So, but everyone kind of finds their authenticity.
No detractors are allowed here.
Yeah.
Well, what are some of the practical implications of that when you combine these elements?
Well, it is kind of interesting because, in fact, the bows that people use, they're most. I think they actually are all copies. It's very hard to get your hands on an original 18th century stick. But they're not made to be played with instruments with steel strings that have so much tension on the bridge and things like that. So there is a kind of technical difficulty with them. But what they do provide is this kind of lightness, this agility, let's say, for a sort of speaking style and a more articulated and these kind of things. So it's sort of people. I think a good way of putting it actually, is that whether it's the instruments or the bows, there's sort of I like to think of them as like a witness, so they can show you how a little bit. I mean, it's of course a lot of it's up to the driver, but it does show you some path into what it maybe could be like. Yeah.
And also the musicians have to travel with at least two, sometimes three bows, classical, Baroque, and modern. And sometimes, tonight it's only Baroque music, but sometimes we mix repertoire. So we could do, for example, Baroque in the first part and modern music in the second part, and then they change, but they change more than that. They change all the way they produce the sound, the vibrato, and everything. So sometimes you feel that you listen to two different orchestras in the same concert.
That's very interesting, and it makes me think of something you said a moment ago about sort of talking to each other. Would you say that in that Baroque music, it's more of a conversational type of element in terms of how much detail you're able to get with the bowing, or is it?
I think that definitely there's a kind of style, and I've learned of this new concept recently of the long 18th century. But in the long 18th century, which is like the 1680s to 1815, there's a style of music that is, I guess you could say, there's some people that want to, change the understanding or whatever the names of these periods, and so this period would be called a rhetorical music. So it's a music that's more about speaking than singing. Even the sung music is more about speaking than singing. So it has more to do with, if you think about a language, any language, basically the vowel sounds are all pretty much the same, and there aren't very many of them. And all the consonants they're extremely varied, and there are many more of them. And so it's this searching for this kind of approach where sort of the way you start and end notes is maybe more important than what happens in the middle. And I think that this obviously kind of changes, post Beethoven, I guess you could say, and the music becomes more about this kind of bel canto style. And as the piano takes over, the piano is sort of the least articulated instrument, and all the notes sort of sound the same. I like the piano. It's not to make it sound so bad, the piano, but it has this quality of, it's meant to make a lot of sound, and it's meant to kind of make everything as equal as possible.
Sure.
Yeah. And it's very good at it. I mean, it's a kind of miracle of engineering, actually. Yeah.
Well, the piano always appreciates a compliment from the violist. No, just joking. I think this is all very interesting, and this is I think it'll be fun for people to listen to these things in the concert tonight. But about this concert, it's kind of an interesting mix itself as well, with Miloš as a solo guitarist, but also in ensemble works that were not necessarily written for his instrument to begin with. And so how do you go about putting together maybe this particular partnership or partnerships like this where the repertoire seems to develop, as
I must say that the first connection was between Miloš and Jonathan Cohen. They both live in London, and they have friends, common friends, and that was how the connection was at the beginning. And I think it's 2 years ago. And they had a lot of conversations about what could they do together. And Miloš was not from the Baroque at all. He's playing a lot of the most common repertoire for the guitar, Spanish classical and everything. And he was a bit guided by Jonathan in that repertoire. And tonight, of course, most of the repertoire is not written for the guitar. They are arrangement transcriptions. And we also do the things by themselves. Miloš will do a lot of piece solo, and he will mix with us. And it was kind of a compromise to how to mix everything together.
Right. And then the program is pretty varied. I mean, it has everything from Vivaldi and Marcello. I have to say it's the oboe concerto. So my wife is an oboist, so she's always offended when other people play her piece. But this is a piece that Bach transcribed himself, and is often used as Bach is often the go-to person to justify. Not that it needs justification, but to justify the idea of doing transcriptions. And so I think that's wonderful that you're including those pieces. And how long has this program been kind of morphing over time? Has it been?
We had the first meeting in November. We did a concert in Quebec and then in Carnegie Hall, New York. And for 2 weeks now, we are with Miloš. First in Quebec, and we started the tour just yesterday.
Well, maybe you could tell me a little bit about the pieces that the orchestra itself is doing without Miloš.
Yeah, sure. So we're starting the concert with a short symphony, but actually overture of an opera by Vivaldi, L'Olimpiade, which I actually don't shamefully say I don't actually know the story of the opera, but I assume it has something to do with the Olympics. It's one of these overtures. It's not like Wagner or sort of more romantic. Or there aren't themes from the opera. It's a kind of piece on its own. It's in 4 short movements. It's sort of actually probably meant to just get everyone to stop talking because it's starting, basically. It's very loud and has lots of effects, and it's kind of, it's a very nice opener, actually. Then we play a few pieces with Miloš, and to finish the first half, we play an arrangement by Geminiani of the Folia variations of Corelli. Right. The Folia is a kind of it's kind of a way of a chaconne. It's a variations on a bass line or a harmonic progression. It's hard to kind of understand how important these sonatas by Corelli were. They were revolutionary in so many ways. He waited until the 1st of January 1700 to publish them, I'm sure on purpose, to make his mark on the new millennium, or the new century rather. But basically they exist. Everyone took them up, copied them out, made their versions. Geminiani, he's kind of a subversive. His music is extremely, he's 2 generations almost after Corelli, but it's extremely different. It's very unexpected. It's sometimes even a bit grotesque. So it's a very, let's say, it's not, obviously, it still sounds like Baroque music, but it's quite experimental. After that, we play a suite of pieces from The Fairy Queen by Purcell. Purcell is very interesting music. It doesn't sound like anything else. It's, of course, much older than the rest of the music on the program, but it has this connection to consort music. So it's very contrapuntal. It's very, also quite, usually kind of music like this, when it's older, it's sort of strangely more radical. I don't know, it's very unexpected. The harmony is it sounds like it's from a different universe almost. And we finish with another chaconne by Purcell from incidental music from Timon of Athens, which is also very beautiful, very interesting, very perfumed, kind of very different sound. Next, I have a break, what the orchestra plays with Miloš, the Vivaldi lute concerto. It doesn't have a viola part. So I get to listen from backstage. And I think that's it. Is that it?
Yeah.
Yes, that's everything.
Or maybe an encore.
Maybe an encore, yeah.
I think there's Boccherini is in there somewhere.
Oh, there is Boccherini. Yes, that's true. Boccherini. But that we play with Miloš.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm wondering if we could go back a moment to the Corelli Geminiani, because I'd love to hear your perspective on this, because I've heard from different people that some people either love Geminiani and what he did to the violin sonatas, and other people think it's this horrific sort of thing. But in this particular piece, usually the piece that gets played is the La Folia. Mm-hmm. What is your take on it in terms of do you bear that sort of judgment as you're thinking about these pieces, or is it something where you're just exploring it and finding something new with it?
I actually quite like Geminiani. I find it very interesting, and I think it's good to have strong different opinions. Geminiani, is even just from for people who know a little bit about what's now kind of mainstream performance practice. In Geminiani's treatise on playing the violin, he recommends using constant vibrato. So it's really kind of there are things that are in that book that don't appear in any other description of playing at the time. So you can sort of imagine he was probably this sort of eccentric contrarian, and his music has this. It's sort of like electric quality. It's so exciting and zingy, but maybe some people would find it kind of too much, but I don't know, it's not. We've seen a lot.
Yeah, right, that's right.
We've seen a lot since then.
Yeah. And the good thing too is giving a good repertoire for the chamber orchestra like us.
Yeah,
also.
Absolutely, yeah.
And he writes good viola parts, actually, also.
Excellent.
Yeah, so,
Even solos from the viola, for the viola.
So that's the reason. No, I'm a Geminiani fan too. I think it's wonderful that that there was such diversity in style within such a short period of time.
When Corelli published his sonatas, he writes the sung adagio movements. He writes out the sort of skeleton of them, and then he writes his own extremely ornamented versions, let's say. And these exist. Different people published their own until incredibly late, until almost until the end of the 19th century. Even people were still writing, and there's with extremely, long chromatic scales and things like this, and that were totally not familiar to it. But my wife, my partner, she's a harpsichordist, and she says that Corelli is the greatest way to learn to play continuo. The music is perfect, it's beautiful, everything works perfectly in it. So it sort of lends itself to this exploration,
It's still a school for the musician.
Yeah, exactly. And
That's very interesting. Maybe we can go back. I mean, there's a theme that kind of keeps. There's a almost like a ground bass sort of theme that keeps coming back with the number of chaconnes and things like that are in this program. Kind of it's sort of a recursive sort of situation in itself. But let's go back to the theme of transcription and just look again at what version of the Boccherini are you doing? Because originally it's a quintet.
Yeah.
And so is it going to be the full group playing or?
Yeah, it's basically the quintet, but just play with all the strings. Yeah, and it's very effective, I think.
Oh, I'm sure, yeah. Absolutely. I was going to mention that I should have looked it up before I came over here, but we do have a set of manuscript parts for those, for I think 5 or 6 of the quintets at the Library of Congress. But I'm not sure if those are in the display or not. But well, I think another thing that we would like to know about are what your other projects are that are coming up, and I'd love to hear about any new recordings that might be on the horizon that you're allowed to disclose. Or
yeah, there will be a new album released in maybe 4 or 5 weeks. It's the cello Haydn concerto with a young musician from Montreal, Cameron Crosman. So we'll do the 2 Haydn concerto and also a piece by Canadian composer Jacques Etu, for a piece for cello and strings, and it shows something about Les Violons, so the mix we can do of repertoire. So a lot of Baroque, a lot of classical, but also last season the tour was including C.P. Bach and Shostakovich in the same program.
The first piano concerto, right? Is that what you did?
Yeah,
Or
exactly.
the trumpet concerto.
Yeah.
Right, that's amazing.
So that's the release is coming, and we have a chamber music series in Quebec, only in Quebec City. If you want to visit Quebec City someday, it's a beautiful, nice city, little one, but with a lot of history. We have a chamber series over there, and we have some concert with choir, and it's the season of the festival in Quebec, province of Quebec. Domaine Forget, Lanaudière Festival. So we do these kind of festival during the summer. We have the last concert of the season is almost all contemporary music.
Oh wow!
So with some creations, new piece by a young lady from Montreal. So we have a large range of repertoire based around classical and Baroque, but really beyond that.
That's wonderful. Can you tell us a little bit about the space in which you get to work? Because my understanding is that it's wonderful. But
we are really lucky. We are based in a new concert hall that was built in an old one, just rebuilt for us with ideal acoustic, and I think it's something that help the musicians to go further and to make really good music, and I think it's a good experience. We are really lucky, and a lot of musicians around the world don't believe that we have this in our small city. Although, yeah, Isaac, if you want to.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, absolutely. It's I'm lucky. I didn't know the before times, so I only know the good the hall that we have now in Quebec, and it's true. It's wonderful. It's a perfect space for us. It's about 900 seats. It has a very generous acoustic. I mean, to put it crudely, like if you listen, it's very loud, which I think is good. I mean, I know it seems like that I'm not being facetious at all. I really do think that it's sort of it's very compelling, the sound. It really kind of comes to get you, and it's right in the center. It's right on the gate of old Quebec, so it's sort of surrounded by beautiful things and. It's a pleasure to work there, for sure. Yeah.
That's wonderful. Was there anything else you'd like to tell us about or talk about? I know you've been traveling all day and everything.
Yeah, we are really proud to do our debut here in that hall. We did a couple of concerts before in Washington at the Kennedy Center. That's the very first time here, and it's an honor for us. And it is our 31st tour in America since 1995. Wow. So. It's part of the life of musician. Every year we have, except with the pandemic, but usually we have a tour in the United States. It's part of the life of our musicians to travel.
Well, that's wonderful. I mean, we're so happy to have you here, and I know that everybody's looking forward to the concert very much.
Thank you very much for having us.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.